Like a bird coursing through the sky? Okay, let's jump right into this, because the sheer speed of what we're about to look at is just breathtaking. Picture an ancient chariot absolutely tearing across rivers, mountains, woods, and lakes so incredibly fast that it literally feels like flight. We're dropping right into the middle of one of the most intense, high-speed road trips in all of ancient literature, narrated by Vibhitaka. But, this isn't just an action sequence about a fast chariot. It's actually the setup for a massive psychological and magical breakthrough.
Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're exploring mastering the demon, math, myth, and the Mahabharata.
And that brings us directly to the core question here. How exactly do you defeat a demon that lives inside your own mind? It's something we still wrestle with today, right? Whether we call those demons trauma, or addiction, or just general misfortune. What is so absolutely captivating to me is how this ancient text approaches the solution. It doesn't tell you to just ignore the demon. It doesn't say you can simply pray it away. Instead, it suggests something radically different, confronting it head-on through the rigorous mastery of a new science.
So, let's set the stage a bit. We have our protagonist, Nala, but right now he's cursed, he's deformed, and he's actually living under the disguised alias of Vahuka. He's currently working as a charioteer, driving King Rituparna, that's the royal son of Bangasura, at just breakneck speed toward the Vidarbhas. They are moving so incredibly fast that the king suddenly drops his upper garment on the ground. Immediately, the king demands that Nala hit the brakes so his other servant, Varshnaya, can run back and grab it.
Now, what's really fascinating here is Nala's response. He flatly refuses to stop. Why? Because in the brief, fleeting moment it took the king to just speak those words, Nala points out they've already traveled a distance of 1 yojana away from the drop sheet. A yojana is an ancient measure of distance that often represents several miles. Basically, in a flash, that garment is completely unrecoverable. The pacing in this scene is so intense, and it perfectly sets up this hyper-elevated, adrenaline-fueled state of our two main characters.
Well, because the king can't get his garment back, he decides he kind of needs to reassert his dominance, so he pauses the journey as they approach this massive Vibhitaka tree in the forest. King Rituparna wants to flex his own genius to his incredibly skilled charioteer. He turns to Nala and says, "All men do not know everything. There is no one that is versed in every science of art." Essentially, he's telling him, look, you might be the undisputed master of horses, but watch what I can do.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the king's intellect. Glancing at just 2 branches of this massive tree, the king instantly calculates and declares that there are exactly 50 million leaves lying on the ground and on those branches. 50 million. He pulls off this algorithmic feat in the blink of an eye from a chariot that was literally just moving at supersonic speeds.
And he doesn't stop at the leaves. He tells Nala that on those same 2 branches, there are exactly 2,095 fruits. I mean, it is an incredibly intimidating display of mathematical brilliance. He is clearly trying to put Nala in his place by showcasing a mental processing power that seems, frankly, supernatural.
But Nala, true to his fiercely capable nature, is not just going to take this on faith. He tells the king, "Thou takest credit to thyself in a matter which is beyond my perception, but I will ascertain it by the direct evidence of my senses." Nala is basically demanding what you and I would call a rigorous peer review. He literally brings the chariot to a dead halt, tells the other servant, Varshnaya, to hold the reins, and declares he's going to chop down the Vibhitaka tree to count the fruits and leaves himself.
This brilliant little moment captures a completely timeless debate in human knowledge. On one side, you have King Rituparna, who perfectly represents speculative mathematics and theoretical calculation. And on the other, you have Nala, representing empirical verification and hands-on direct observation. Nala says, when I actually count, it will no longer be a matter of speculation. It is literally an ancient showcase of the scientific method playing out right in the middle of a mythological forest.
So Nala chops down the tree, counts the fruits, and is completely struck with amazement. The king's calculation of 2,095 fruits was absolutely flawless. Nala is stunned by this power and instantly desires to learn the art of this calculation. And what follows is a highly tense negotiation. The king insists they have no time to lose, but Nala refuses to drive the chariot a single inch further until he's taught this math. He totally capitalizes on the king's desperate need here. The king absolutely has to get to Vidarbha to see the sunrise, so he's forced to the negotiating table.
Which leads to this incredible, mutual exchange of knowledge. King Rituparna reveals that his proficiency in numbers is tied directly to his mastery of the science of dice, and he agrees to teach this to Nala. In return,
Nala gives the king his unparalleled knowledge of horses, which the king leaves with Nala in trust for the time being. Think about that. They are trading the science of gambling and mathematics for the science of speed and control.
Okay, before we see the result of this trade, I need to crucially clarify some lore so we fully understand the stakes. In this text, the demon currently possessing Nala is named Kali. Now, please note, this is the male personification of misfortune and the namesake of the Dark Age, the Kali Yuga. This is entirely separate from the famous Hindu goddess Kali. This demon of misfortune is exactly why Nala lost his kingdom in a rigged game of dice earlier in his life. The demon has basically been living inside him like a parasite.
So why does Nala demand the science of dice? Because mastering the exact vice that destroyed him is the cure. As soon as Nala becomes acquainted with the science of dice, this visceral exorcism begins. The text leans into some incredibly sensory language here. The sheer intellectual mastery of numbers forces the demon Kali out of Nala's body. And as Kali exits, he is incessantly vomiting the virulent poison of the snake Karkotaka from his mouth. It's a violent physical purging of a psychological demon.
Let's walk through this rapid chain of magical events so we really grasp the mechanics of this exorcism. First, Nala acquires the science of dice, essentially mastering the mathematics of his own downfall. Second, this intellectual mastery makes his body physically uninhabitable for the demon of misfortune who vomits poison as he's expelled. Third, a furious Nala prepares to lay a curse on the newly vulnerable demon. And finally, the terrified, trembling Kali begs Nala for his protection and mercy.
Now you might wonder, why was the demon so weak? Well, Kali confesses he had actually been suffering and burning night and day inside Nala due to a prior curse from Nala's wife Damayanti, who's referred to here as Indrasena's mother. In exchange for Nala controlling his wrath, Kali grants a fascinating boon. Anyone who attentively recites this history will be free from the fear of misfortune. And after striking this deal, the frightened invisible Kali speedily enters that felled Vibhitaka tree to hide.
And that leads to a really surprising mythological consequence. The text tells us that from that very hour, simply from the invisible touch of the demon Kali, the Vibhitaka tree fell into disrepute permanently. Its reputation was cursed forever, just by being the temporary refuge for the embodiment of misfortune. It's such a fascinating detail about how spaces and objects can absorb the energy of the events that happen around them. But as for Nala, the calamity is finally over. The text describes him as being filled with great joy and high energy. He is completely delivered from his afflictions. Interestingly enough, even though the demon is gone, Nala doesn't immediately assume his native, handsome form. He's actually still in his disguise. But his spirit, it's completely renewed. With a glad heart, he mounts the car, urges those fleet horses that spring into the air like winged creatures, and continues driving the illustrious monarch toward the Vidarbhas. Which leaves us with a pretty profound takeaway from this ancient text. Nala didn't defeat his demon by running from it. He defeated it by stopping the chariot, demanding empirical truth, and fully mastering the exact science, the dice, that had once been his greatest weakness. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What science, what specific skill or knowledge must you master to banish your own demons? Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the source text. Keep learning, keep mastering, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.